watching Lit Sports Online. This is the UFC 237 Namajunas versus Andrade preview episode. We got Pat on the table once again, and we're gonna start this off by going into some of the undercard bouts. Just a couple quick mentions here, because one of the things that's interesting is we got Lil Nog, Antonio Rogero Nogueira, still fighting, even in his old age.
Yeah, he's one of the two Nogueira brothers, the twins. They're a big part of the Brazilian top team camp, and they've just been fighting forever. They came up in Pride. They came from the same, they came up at the same time as Shogun and Anderson Silva, and there's a lot of these guys still fighting, but the Nogueira brothers just were a little bit older, and we're kind of bringing these other guys up, and they were the head of the jiu-jitsu teaching of those guys, and they're legends in the sport. And it's just I just can't believe this dude's still fighting. I want to see him win just because of who he is and what those guys mean to the sport, but he should probably be done at this point. And I think the same can be said for both of the guys that we're going to mention in the next fight as well.
Right, and the next fight is BJ Penn against Clay Guida, and BJ Penn being on the undercard, disrespect or well-deserved given his recent record?
I mean, I get it that anyone who has lost their last 6 fights, right? But, dude, it's BJ Penn. He's already in the Hall of Fame. He's the first American to ever, win a national title in jiu-jitsu, or an international title in jiu-jitsu, and he's one of the greatest lightweights of all time, which is the marquee division these days. That's the Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Nate Diaz division. He's the original superstar of that division, and is just he's a legend of the sport, and it just sucks to see him have fallen so far that he's on the undercard.
But maybe this is UFC telling him hey dude, you need to retire, you don't have it anymore.
Yeah, and he has said that he has retired multiple times. He just hasn't actually committed to that retirement, you know what I mean?
So he's come out of retirement a couple times.
Yeah, that's what this is. And he's done it a few times and he has not looked good, and fighting against Clay Guida BJ, even when he was the best of all time, was kind of hit or miss at times. You never know which BJ you're going to get. Are you going to get the super well-trained, super, disciplined BJ that comes out and can beat anyone in the world? Or are you going to get the guy that was a little overconfident, that slacked off a little bit on his training, that didn't quite do everything he could, and loses to guys he shouldn't? BJ Penn, the best version of BJ Penn beats Clay Guida every day. But an off version of BJ Penn will probably get smothered by a Clay Guida who his whole thing is just running forward at high energy. This dude literally sprints out to the cage and is slapping himself in the face and flipping out the whole time. Never slows down, never gets tired. Just coming at you full force, throwing big hooks and going for takedowns. And so if we don't have the best version of BJ Penn, man, Clay Guida is going to just overwhelm him. It's going to be bad, and I'm sick of seeing BJ Penn get his ass kicked when he's one of the greatest of all time.
They need to make an old boys division in UFC. You got to be 40 plus to even fight in it.
Well, yeah, that's something that Vitor Belfort was saying a while ago, is have a legends division. But the other part of you just goes, look, dude, if you're old enough and damaged enough that you can't compete at the highest level, you probably shouldn't be taking any more head trauma. You're just asking to have more health problems later in life.
I just feel there's enough of them that want to fight at age 40 plus though.
Yeah, but you got to wonder why they want to fight at age 40 plus. Is it it's either a pride thing where they can't give it up, or it's a money thing where they can't figure out another way to make enough money, and so they're going for a fight just to make some more money. Either way, just you got to check yourself, you don't want to be 40 plus years old getting kicked in the head by a young dude, It's just not going to be good. Just, with all we know about concussions and CTE and brain trauma, it's just Like, you're just like, why do that to yourself? You know what I mean? I get the sentiment, and it would be fun.
So we'll move on.
Yeah.
So the next thing we want to talk about is the featherweight matchup: Jose Aldo versus Alex Volkanovski. And what do you got to say?
I got to say I'm excited to see Aldo kind of resurging a little bit. You know, he's probably the greatest featherweight of all time. Lost to Max Holloway twice in a row. Max Holloway, who's gone on to challenge for the lightweight title, is, you know, the best heavyweight or the best featherweight of all time, but not the greatest in my opinion. You know, I look at greatest as far as accomplishments and best as far as skills. So Holloway's a better fighter, but he hasn't accomplished what Jose Aldo was able to accomplish. An incredibly long title run, taking out, you know, contenders from other divisions, and just putting on one of the greatest win streaks of all time, and some of the most impressive finishes of all time. And I'm just glad to see Jose Aldo kind of, you know, heading back towards the top. His last fight, he took out Jeremy Stephens, who had been running through the division and is a devastating striker in his own right, but Jose Aldo was able to catch him with a big body shot and cripple Stephens and get him out of the fight. And he's going in against a young guy who's surging in the division. He's had his wins, he's had his losses, but he's surging with confidence now. He's coming off a big win, and he's another striker, so it should be an exciting fight. You know, I think we're gonna see Aldo try to push the pace, try to throw those leg kicks, throw those heavy shots, and Volkanovski's just he's a great striker, man. He has a lot of power. He comes from the same camp as the current interim champ Israel Adesanya. I think it's City Kickboxing in New Zealand, in Auckland, and he also trains out of Tiger Muay Thai in Phuket, Thailand, which is one of the most famous Muay Thai kickboxing schools in the world. You know, there's a couple big name schools in Thailand that if you want to go and just really see, you know, the oldest, biggest schools that are the most marketable in Thailand, you go to these couple, and Tiger is at the top of that list. And we've recently seen other UFC fighters come from there and looked phenomenal after having fight camps there, notably Khalil Roundtree, who we covered in our last video, who put on the best performance of his career by far and looked completely like revamped in his striking game. And so you can't underestimate how important it is, or how impactful it can be to have a guy training at a gym like that and training at such a high level. And he's a young guy. He's taken some losses, and one of the things that happened is he lost to a fighter from City Kickboxing's camp, and then moved his camp from Australia to City Kickboxing, where he had a lot more high-level fighters, higher level coach in his opinion, or a coach that he worked better with at the very least. And so he's a young guy who is beat some good dudes, lost to some good dudes, but is on a little bit of a streak and has great camps to train out of and is doing the right things. And it should be a really, really interesting fight.
Sounds like an interesting one. And another case of young versus old here, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. Jose Aldo is trying to get his way back to the title. You know, and that's he's one of the greatest of all time. That's always going to be his goal. Jose Aldo is never going to be the guy who is just the gatekeeper. But that seems to be where he's kind of ending these days, is anytime somebody wants to fight for the title, they got to go through Jose Aldo, basically. Because he beats everyone not named Max Holloway, basically. And so you got a young guy trying for his first shot at the title, and you got Jose Aldo trying to earn his way back to the title. And the best way to do that is to beat the surging young contender that everybody thinks is going to fight for the title next.
Moving on, we got a middleweight bout of Anderson Silva versus Gerald Cannonier.
We do. And again, we have a situation where there's a young guy trying to earn his way to the title versus the greatest champion that division has ever seen. Anderson Silva is... Anyone who watches MMA knows who Anderson Silva is. He's probably the greatest fighter of all time. Definitely the greatest middleweight of all time. Had one of the most phenomenal win streaks we've ever seen. Has put on the most phenomenal finishes we've ever seen. His highlight reel looks like a Bruce Lee movie. And I don't know what else to say. You know who Anderson Silva is if you're watching this video, most likely, but he's...
Well, here's the thing about it, though, is, like, yeah, Anderson Silva in his prime, obviously, like, an incredible fighter. Now, what is he now, though? Like, 70% of what he was before? Or, like, how much of a step back has he taken?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you don't know how much his chin is worse, how much his body is slowed down, how much his reflexes slowed down. His mind hasn't slowed down. He's thinking, his fight IQ is just as good, if not better than ever. It's just that's the trade-off, as you get older in MMA. You get the higher fight IQ and the more experience and the more knowledge and the more tricks, but your body can't respond as quickly and it can't take as much damage as it used to be. And so you come to that middle ground where sometimes guys find the sweet spot, sometimes guys are, legends inside of the MMA community that just never quite look that good inside the cage, like your Nate Marquardt and things like that. But Anderson Silva found that sweet spot. One of the greatest of all time, and probably, yes, is for sure on the tail end of his career. He lost to Bisping. He lost to a few other guys. He lost to Weidman twice, obviously, and yeah, he's not what he was. But you can't discount as I said, the fight IQ, like the flashes of brilliance. Those brilliant moments are always going to be there, and there's always the chance for them to happen. That being said, he's coming up against a guy named Gerald Cannonier who, as I said, young, super athletic, super quick, super explosive, former heavyweight before he got to the UFC, or before he became a professional, and then at the beginning of his professional career, started as one heavyweight fight in the UFC, went to light heavyweight, mixed record, decided those guys were still a little bit too big for him, cut down to middleweight, and has found some success in middleweight. He beat David Branch, who is a great striker in his own right and a phenomenal grappler, and Cannonier was able to catch him with a big shot and put him out of the fight. And so you got your young, super explosive, super fast, super kind of diverse, well-rounded guy versus the greatest of all time, who's just a legend and a master, who's at the tail end of his career, and you never know what's going to happen. Anderson Silva can put away this young guy, and they won't give him a title shot, but he might be able to fight one of the top-ranked middleweights again. But on the other side, you look at Gerald Cannonier. If Gerald Cannonier, no matter what age Anderson Silva is, no matter what condition Anderson Silva is, having that name on your resume, if I beat Anderson Silva, always looks good. It immediately puts you in the talk for fighting for the title. That's what happened last time. Israel Adesanya beat Anderson Silva. They put him in the interim title fight. They probably would have given him a title shot if the fight between Whitaker and Gastelum had happened. They would have given him a title shot after beating Anderson Silva. So, I mean, we'll see if Anderson Silva is in the true tail end and twilight of his career, and if that's the case, then we'll see Gerald Cannonier toss right to the top of the division, and we'll see if he's really made of everything he says he is. And if he gets past Anderson Silva, there's really no argument to say that he's not, and so you should give him one of those top guys.
Well, so there you have it, a featherweight gatekeeper fight, a middleweight gatekeeper fight. What's next on tap? Well, that would be the main event, the Strawweight Championship. Rose Namajunas versus
Jessica Andrade. And it is truly a... This is about as high level a fight as you're going to get. And it's not like style versus style as far as one person's a grappler, one's a striker, but it's two completely different striking styles and fighting styles just clashing. And really, if you were going to look at what would be the antidote for each of these fighters, it would be the person on the other side of the octagon. If you're going to look at Rose, who likes to fight at distance, likes to get takedowns and submissions from a clinch game, so she has to get close to you, You would say the antidote to that would be a very high-pressure fighter who has a lot of power and wants to get inside and nullify that distance, who also has a great takedown game from the clinch and a great ground game. And that is exactly what you see in Jessica Andrade. And so Rose has made a huge impact in the fight world, especially in her division, by dethroning Joanna Jędrzejczyk and beating her twice in a row in convincing fashion. And so Rose is just kind of this mystique to her. You know, she went out against Jędrzejczyk, who is this woman who likes to completely, like, try to completely screw with her opponent before she gets in the cage. She tries to scare people. The boogie woman is coming after you and likes to get in people's faces and just talk shit to them, like 2 inches from their nose at weigh-ins. And Rose Namajunas came out and was just completely dead in the face and just zero reaction at all. She has this weird mystique about her. And then she comes out on fight night and is the exact same thing. And she just goes out there and executes a game plan, shows no emotion, shows no reaction to anything that's landed on her, shows no change in her demeanor throughout the fight, and is just so mentally strong and so focused and goal-oriented that you can't really throw her off, right? And what Andrade needs to do is Andrade needs to use her strengths, which are unrelenting pressure. She's kind of like a little, like, Vanderlei Silva type, where she's smaller, compact, but has a huge amount of torque in her movements and her punches and a huge amount of power. And she likes to to move forward. She waits for her openings. Once she gets an opening, she'll throw a longer strike and then move forward immediately, throwing, kind of like leaning over her feet and throwing big hooks and trying to get around that guard of most people, because most people, as soon as you start throwing punches up, they put that guard up like this. She likes to throw those hooks that get around. They sneak in between the arm and the shoulder, and so she throws these big shots and she just catches people. She caught Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who's a world-renowned kickboxer who fought Jędrzejczyk and was a kickboxing champion in Poland, and that's what Andrade needs to do. She needs to overwhelm Rose. She needs to work her way inside that striking range, because Rose likes to throw a lot of kicks and long punches, particularly that has a really good left hook, a really long check hook that she moves moving forward and to check people as she's moving back. And if Andrade can get in there and overwhelm Rose and push her back and get her cornered against the cage and throw those big shots, she can put anyone in the division away if she lands that big shot on their chin. Rose can do the same. Rose has that long left hook that she dropped Joanna with. She has a head kick that she dropped Michelle Watterson with.
And she has the submission game, right?
That's exactly what I was about to say. But the real interesting thing comes in once they get into that clinch game. Andrade really loves to go for really hard-throwing judo throws. Like I said, she has a lot of torque in her movements. She's compact and she's small, so she's good at getting her hips underneath the hips of her opponent and then spinning her body and throwing them real hard. Rose also likes takedowns and grappling from the clinch game. She likes to get inside the clinch and then work her way to getting underhooks and work her way to your back and drag you down to the ground slowly. Or, if she drops you with something, she immediately jumps on and goes for the choke or goes for the submission. Her submission game is fantastic, especially her rear naked choke. Her rear naked choke, she goes palm to palm with a gable grip. She gets the blood choke instead of the throat choke. And I've heard her games described as a strike to strangle. You know, she likes to get her striking game going, throw you off, drop you, and then strangle you immediately. Andrade doesn't go for the submission as much, but she has a phenomenal clinch game and a phenomenal takedown game, and she will throw those big, powerful shots, just as powerful as she can on the feet, on the ground, and try to ground and pound people out of there. So it's a dangerous fight for both women in both positions. It's just a question for me of who can implement their game plan. Is Andrade able to overwhelm and throw Namajunas off, or does Namajunas come out with that, like, serial killer focus and just stick to it and keep Andrade where she wants her.
Well, it sounds like the problem is for Andrade, like you're making it sound like she basically has to get in close in order to like really be executing her game plan, right? But like if she's in close, doesn't that also make it easier to like, have a clinch happen and then turn into a submission or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. It's so for me, it's a question of who's able to implement their game in the clinch game. Right? Is Andrade able to overpower Rose and keep her in front of her and get a judo throw and take her down? Or is Rose able to sneak her way into controlling Andrade and getting a dominant position and getting a submission from there? I don't know what the answer is, because Andrade is a phenomenally strong woman, especially for this weight class. She used to fight at 135, I think 20 pounds up, and was able to pick up and throw down and out-grapple women at 135, 20 pounds heavier than the weight class she's fighting at now. So as good as Rose is, and as technical as Rose is, and as sneaky as her submission game is, Andrade may very well just be powerful enough to neutralize it. If she's able to keep Rose from getting those underhooks and sneak around to her back, if she's able to hold her, tilt, throw her shoulders off and get her hips lower than Rose's, she might take Rose down and just pound her into the canvas and get a TKO. It's very possible. I don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of technique versus power and brute strength in a way, and kind of chaos,
Yeah, and before we end our episode, why don't we do something a little fun that we haven't done in a while and pick who we think are going to win these 3 fights.
All right.
So I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas, Gerald Cannonier, and Alex Volkanovski. Who are you going with?
Really? Interesting. I was going to go with... I think I was going to... I'll agree with you and Rose. Although I'm very conflicted on that one. I think Anderson Silva, I think he's got that experience. He's slick. He's clever, wise in his years. I think he might clip Gerald Cannonier.
Okay.
And Jose Aldo, man. Jose Aldo just does not seem slowed down, man. I think his leg kicks and I think his body shots can take a little bit of the wind out of Volkanovski. I think Jose Aldo can take it.
Okay. So it sounds like we're agreeing on the strawweight, but for the other two, you're going with the veterans, I'm going with the young guys.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We gotta think of a wager.
Yeah, we'll think of
something. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what we should bet on this. But anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned we will have a recap video on this as well.
Yep.
All right, good stuff, guys.
What ending?
Jesus.
What?
Matt Thompson over here.
That was the best ending of all.